When I moved into my new apartment, the last thing I expected to find was a piece of my past. Tucked away on the top shelf of the closet, there was this cardboard box. No label, no dust, almost like it was waiting for me. Inside, I found a leather-bound diary. It felt old, but strangely familiar. You see, I used to keep a diary years ago. It was a habit I picked up in therapy. The whole write it out, let it go thing. It actually helped. But this one felt different. I opened it, and the first page, in what was unmistakably my own handwriting, had just 3 words. Don't read this. So, naturally, I closed it. I put it back in the box, pushed it back onto the shelf, and tried to forget about it. But you know how it is. Curiosity is a persistent, nagging voice, and it's always louder than fear. My mind kept drifting back to it. Who wrote that? Was it me? Did I buy this and forget? The questions piled up, creating this unbearable static in my head. I lasted a whole day, but the next night, the silence of the apartment felt too heavy, and my resolve crumbled. I found myself standing on a chair, reaching for that box again. I pulled the diary out, my heart doing a little drum solo against my ribs. I took a deep breath and opened it past that first warning. The second page was dated, tomorrow. My blood ran a little cold. And underneath the date, in that same familiar handwriting, it said, "You'll drop the glass in the kitchen. Don't pick it up." I just stared at it. Then I laughed. A nervous, slightly shaky laugh. It had to be a prank, right? Maybe a friend found my old diary and decided to mess with me. I dismissed it, telling myself it was a silly coincidence, and went to bed, completely forgetting about the strange little prophecy. The next morning, I was making coffee, half asleep, when my hand slipped. My favorite mug, the one I'd had for years, tumbled from my grasp and hit the tile floor. It didn't just break, it exploded. It shattered into a million tiny ceramic daggers. Without even thinking, my instincts took over. I knelt down to start picking up the pieces, and that's when it happened. The biggest shard, sharp as a razor, slid right into the fleshy part of my palm. I hissed in pain, pulling my hand back. As I stood there, watching the blood well up and drip onto the floor, the words from the diary echoed in my mind, crystal clear. Don't pick it up. I just stared at the cut, a cold dread washing over me. This wasn't a prank. From that day on, it became a ritual I couldn't escape. Every night, a new entry would appear in the diary, always dated for the following day, always written in my handwriting. At first, the predictions were small, almost insignificant. A phone call from a number I didn't recognize, a specific song from the 90s playing on the radio just as I got in the car, an unexpected visit from a neighbor asking to borrow some sugar. They were just little things, but they were always correct. It was unnerving, but a part of me was still trying to rationalize it, to find a logical explanation. Maybe I was subconsciously predicting these things myself. It was a flimsy theory, and I knew it. Then, the entries started to change. They became more specific, more sinister. One night it read, "At 11:42, the power will go out." I sat on my couch that night, watching the clock on my phone. And at exactly 11:42 p.m., my apartment was plunged into total darkness. My heart hammered against my chest. Another entry warned, "You'll see someone standing in the hallway." And when I got up for a glass of water in the middle of the night, a tall, slender shadow was there, just at the edge of my vision. By the time I flicked on the light, it was gone. Everything happened exactly as it was written, every single terrifying detail. I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to stop. I closed the diary, locked it in a drawer, and tried to reclaim my life. My little rebellion didn't last long. I managed to ignore it for a few days, and for a moment I felt a sense of relief. Maybe that was it. Maybe I had broken the cycle. But when I woke up one morning, the relief curdled into pure terror. The diary wasn't in the locked drawer anymore. It was sitting open on my desk, right next to my bed, and there, on a fresh page, was a new entry. It wasn't a prediction this time. It was a message, and it was addressed to me. 2 words, chilling in their simplicity. "Stop ignoring me." The handwriting was mine, but the intention behind it felt alien, possessive. It wasn't just a passive observer anymore. It was aware, it was watching me, and it was angry. Last night, I hit my breaking point. I couldn't live like this, being a puppet to some haunted book. I decided I had to fight back, to test it, to prove to myself that I still had some control. I took my own pen, and with a shaking hand, I wrote my own entry for the day ahead. I kept it simple, a defiant statement against the diary's power. I wrote, "Nothing will happen tonight." I closed the book, feeling a small surge of victory, and went to bed, praying for an uneventful night. But sleep didn't come easy. I woke up suddenly with a jolt, my body drenched in a cold sweat. The room was dark, but my eyes were immediately drawn to the diary, which was once again open on my desk. I squinted at the clock on my phone. 3:17 a.m. On the page, my own entry was still there, but underneath my defiant line, a reply had appeared, written in that same chillingly familiar script. "Then why are you awake?" A wave of pure ice washed over me. Before I could even process the words, the pages of the diary began to turn on their own. Slowly at first, then faster and faster, a blur of paper and ink, the sound filling the silent room. They finally stopped at a blank page. And then I watched in horror as new words began to materialize, one letter at a time, as if an invisible hand was writing them. "This is not your diary." As the last letter appeared, the pen I had used earlier, the one I had left on the desk, rolled off the edge and landed softly in my lap. It was still warm to the touch. My gaze snapped back to the book. There was one final entry, a closing statement that sealed my fate. It read, "You wrote this for me." And just like that, the diary was gone. It vanished from my desk, leaving no trace it was ever there. But the nightmare isn't over. It's just changed. Now, every morning when I wake up, there's a single loose page on my nightstand, still dated for tomorrow, still written in my handwriting, waiting for me to read my day. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoy this kind of unsettling content, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel. It really helps, and it means I can keep bringing you more tales from the shadows. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.